You deserve a little fun. Look at this week. We just landed the company $1 million contract. Come on, dance with me," Jason said, putting his hand out. My head was telling me no, but I was excited about the big contract, and the alcohol from our celebration lowered my defenses. I held out my hand, letting Jason drag me out to the dance floor. The song was fast, and we hopped around to the beat. When the song was over, I started to head back to our table, but Jason grabbed my hand. He pulled me to him as a slow song came over the speakers. I put up a token of resistance before falling into Jason's arms. I rationalized that it was because of the alcohol I let Jason hold me tight to his body. After a few moments of swaying to the music, I could feel him pressing against me. I knew it was wrong, but I felt a stirring between my legs. Jason whispered while we danced, "Vicky, you are so hot." When the song finished, Jason kissed me on the cheek, taking me back to the table. "I'm Vicky Harris. I've been married for 23 years, but not to Jason. Jason Clark is the new hotshot at our advertising agency. He is 10 years younger than my 45 years. Jason, like me, is married with an 8-year-old daughter. Jason and I work for an advertising agency that has accounts all over the county. As a result, we travel to our clients. For me, that can be a trip every other month. The last 3 have been with Jason. On each trip, he has increased his flirting and hitting on me. My marriage to Ross Harris has been a wonderful 23 years. We have produced 2 wonderful children, Steve, 19, and Abby, 17. Ross has a very good job as management in a manufacturing company. Ross is a great father and a wonderful husband. With all that I've just said, you are probably asking, why am I telling you about letting a man, not my husband, press his body against mine? Well, that was the start of my downfall. When Jason got me back to the table, he started to order another round of drinks. I tried to tell him that I had enough and was finished. "Come on, Vicky. You deserve this. This has been a big week for us." I started to buy into Jason's line that I deserved it. 1 drink led to 2, and another dance grinding away. By our 3rd time on the dance floor, Jason was practically pressing himself against me on the dance floor. I was getting turned on, and Jason knew it. I didn't move his hands off my back as we danced. He even copped a feel of my breasts. He said it was an accident, but we both knew he did it on purpose, and I let him. Back at the table, Jason suggested that we call it a night. "I should walk you back to your room and maybe we could have a nightcap," Jason said with his hand on my thigh. I knew what he wanted, but I thought I could stop it before it got too far. Jason leaned over, kissing me on the lips. I hadn't kissed another man like that since before I met Ross. His tongue was down my throat, and I didn't stop him. He looked at me. We deserved that. Jason helped me to my room. I stumbled a few times with him holding me up. Once in my room, there was no nightcap. I was in Jason's arms with his tongue in my mouth. We kissed for a few moments before his hands were in my blouse engulfing my breasts. Somehow, I got my wits about me and stopped him. "Jason, we can't. I'm a happily married woman to a great man." Jason looked me right in the eyes. "From what I know about you, you are a wonderful mother. I'm married to a great woman. But it is just you and I here now. We deserve this. No one will know but us. I'll stop if you tell me that you aren't incredibly turned on." His logic made no sense, but he was right. In just a few seconds, I was back in his arms with my blouse and bra on the floor. Not sure how, but the next thing I remember was being naked on the bed with Jason. I couldn't remember if it was good or bad intimacy. I just remember waking up naked in bed with a hangover. A hangover with a naked man in my bed who was not my husband. My horror started when I realized that we had been intimate and I had his essence inside me. I slapped Jason. "What the hell, Jason? I can't believe you did that to me. I am not on the pill, you jerk." "Calm down. I got snipped after Heather was born. You weren't complaining when I was with you last night." "Oh no, I can't believe we did that." "We're in big trouble," I replied. "Oh please, we are not screwed." "Okay, we did screw, twice. Why is this a problem? I enjoyed it, and from the way you were shouting, you enjoyed it too. No one needs to know and no one will know. Hell, we deserved this. Come on, let's take a shower. I'm so foolish. I agreed to take a shower, and yes, before we were all soaped up, Jason was with me again. I told Jason that this was a one-time thing, and it would never happen again. He agreed as he got dressed to go back to his room. After Jason left, I showered again, making sure I was completely clean everywhere. I don't think I could have been more nervous on the plane ride home. I kept imagining Ross walking up to me in the terminal with his finger pointing at me yelling, "Cheater, cheater, cheater." That didn't happen. Ross came up to me, hugged me, and kissed me like he does every time. We went home, and like every other trip, Ross made love to me. God, it was awful. The entire time Ross was with me, I thought for sure he would know that Jason had been with me. I tried to watch the expression on his face as discreetly as I could. The expression was that he was truly enjoying being intimate with me. Unlike my experience with Jason, Ross made love to me. If I hadn't been so nervous, I would have really enjoyed it. Life went on for the next month and a half. Jason and I worked together like nothing happened, and Ross and I were making love like nothing happened. It was 2 weeks before the next trip that I got the memo that I had to travel. I was paired up with Jason again. Given how well we were working together, I didn't think anything of it. The first 2 days of the trip were like a normal work trip. Jason made his usual sexual innuendo, but nothing more. On the third day, we sealed the trip with a signed contract. Jason suggested a celebratory dinner. He said we deserved it. I agreed, thinking just dinner would be fine. Dinner included 2 bottles of wine. When he ordered the second bottle, Jason said we deserved it. Sitting at the table, Jason scooted next to me. He leaned over, kissing me on the lips. We had a good week. Let's finish it with a great celebration. We sat there and made out in the booth before I realized we were in a public place. I finally stopped. Jason, we are in public. We can't be that stupid. He grabbed my hand and placed it on his firm waist. Oh no, I thought to myself. I had told myself that last time was a one-time thing, but I felt overwhelmed with desire. Take me back to my room. Jason pulled me up from the booth, taking me in her arms. He kissed me on the lips, grabbing me. I pulled back and said too loud, "Damn it, Jason, wait till we get to the room." We hurried back to the room. Once the door was closed, we couldn't get our clothes off any faster. We were intimate several times that night and once more in the morning. I couldn't help but notice that when I was with Jason, he wasn't as well endowed as Ross. He was close, very close, but I could tell the difference. I did my same routine after Jason left. I showered, cleaning off any remnants of Jason in and off my body. Getting out of the shower, I stood looking at my 45-year-old body. I thought I looked good. Yes, my butt had grown and I had too much around my middle. I was hot enough that a man 10 years younger wanted me, and I had given in to him. I was less nervous on the plane ride home. My Ross was there like always, waiting for me. He hugged me and kissed me like always. We went home and made love that night. Not nervous this time. I enjoyed making love to my husband. I had 2 more trips with Jason before things started to change. Right before the next trip, Ross told me he would not be able to take me to the airport and pick me up. Something came up at work, he said. Ross had changed. He was less affectionate with me. Our normal routine was to make love the night before I went out of town. Ross begged off, saying he wasn't feeling well. Ross would usually call me every night I was gone. He didn't call me one time. I called him a couple of times, but each one went to voicemail. He texted me back that he was sorry, but he was busy working late. Jason and I had progressed to having intimacy every night when we traveled. I kept telling myself that we were careful and no one could find out. I rationalized that no one was getting hurt. I was denying nothing from my husband. I even started using Jason's "I deserve this" line. When I got home, it was late, and Ross was already in bed. I was looking forward to my husband making love to me. I thought of it as Ross reclaiming me from Jason. I tried to rouse him, but he moaned that he had a headache. I was a little upset. I had worked myself up and needed Ross to make love to me. Ross was cold to me but polite. He had always asked how my trip was and what I did. There was none of that. Every time I asked him what was bothering him, he told me it was the stress of his work. I was getting worried that maybe he knew, but there was no way he could. After 2 weeks of the ice-cold treatment, I decided that I would end it with Jason. I couldn't take the risk anymore. I figured that if he did know, he would have confronted me already. Jason and I were scheduled for another trip. During that trip, I would tell him we were done, and I would make a request for another traveling partner. I asked Ross to take me to the airport, and again he said that he was sorry but he had to work. I tried to get him to open up if there was a problem, him or me. I started to think maybe he was having an affair. He was exhibiting plenty of signs. When Ross begged off intimacy the night before I was to leave, I started to believe that Ross was cheating on me. It serves him right I'm being with Jason, I thought. The first 2 nights of the trip, Jason and I were intimate as usual. On the last night, we were together one last time. I went to the bathroom to clean up afterward. When I came back, I sat down next to Jason. "This is our last time, Jason. I'm ending this before we get caught." "What do you mean, Vicky? We won't get caught. We are too careful. There is no way anyone will find out. Don't I always act so professionally when we are together back at work and even on our trips till we get in the room?" "Yes, Jason, you are very careful. I don't care. We are done. You can have me as many times as you like tonight, but in the morning, we are done. I need to start working on my marriage. I think I'm losing Ross. Please don't try to convince me otherwise. Just tell me you agree, and I'm yours for the night." Jason whined a bit, but reluctantly agreed. If we were going to be done, Jason wanted to end with a bang. He was never subtle with his intimacy, but this was an angry one. I was on my hands and knees on the bed while he stood behind me. Jason was punishing me, but I was loving it. I was in the midst of a moment of pleasure when the door burst open. "Police! Nobody moves!" Switching to the perspective of Ross. "You must be mistaken. My wife wouldn't cheat on me," I said to my old friend Ron. Ron and I were fraternity brothers in college. He was even at our wedding. When I first saw her, I didn't think it was her. I hadn't seen her in about 10 years. I sat there looking at her and was about to go over to see if it was really her when they started kissing. I sent you a couple of those pictures. When they stood up, I was sure it was her. I took a few more pictures of them kissing when they stood up. You said she was in Denver on business, right? In that last picture, you can see both their faces clearly. Sorry, buddy, but I knew you needed to know. Thanks. I owe you, I replied. I transferred the pictures to my computer to look at them on a bigger screen. I was hoping so hard that he was wrong, but he wasn't. From the first picture I pulled up, I easily recognized my wife. You could tell by the pictures that they had their tongues in each other's mouths. After some enlargement, you could even see the man grabbing Vicky's breast. Ron was also right about being able to see the man's face when they stood up. It was Jason, that guy she works with and travels with. If they were doing this in public, what were they doing in private? I assumed I knew, but needed to find out for sure. I had heard some stories about one of the guys on my assembly line who caught his wife sleeping around. Rumor had it he had some help getting evidence of his wife's cheating, and then some help in his divorce. The guy's name is Kevin. He is a good guy, but a little rough. I asked the foreman to send him to my office. "Hey, boss, am I in trouble?" Kevin asked. "No, I need some advice. I don't mean to pry, but the rumor is that you went through a messy divorce. I heard you had some help getting evidence of your wife's cheating." "I'm not sure what you are getting at, Mr. Harris. Did my ex contact you or something?" he asked. I realized he still thought he was in trouble. "I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm not explaining myself well. I think I have a similar problem and need some help." I went on to tell my story that I believed my wife was cheating on me but needed evidence. "Mr. Harris, I think I can help you. You need to know that my friends don't exactly follow the rules, if you know what I mean. If that's going to be a problem, let me know now before I get them involved. They will require payment, and you can never know who they are. Whatever it takes, Kevin, I will owe you, I replied. A week later, when I got to my office, Kevin was waiting. Kevin shut and locked the door once I walked in. Mr. Harris, I'm going to need a couple of things. I need $2,000 to start. That is just the start. There will be more expenses. I need to have all the details of your wife's next trip. As much detail as you can get, but I have to have the hotel where she is staying. The worst part was that I could detect no difference in how Vicky was treating me. We made love the same, she talked to me the same. Everything was the same. I could detect nothing that would lead me to believe that she was cheating on me. I got Kevin everything he needed. I had her complete itinerary right down with the flight numbers and confirmation number of the hotel she was staying at. Lastly, I had the cash. Kevin told me to relax and to act normal. I had 2 weeks to act normal. It was hard, but I did it. I even had intimacy with Vicky a couple of times. As much as I tried, I knew I was not acting normal. The best thing to do was to distance myself from Vicky. Not be rude, but just stay away. Vicky was back from her trip on Thursday, and Kevin was waiting outside my office on Friday. I'm sorry, boss. You were right, they were sleeping in your wife's room. We have pictures for you and some videos. They think they are very clever. They only do it when they are on their trips. I'm really sorry, boss. Thank Kevin, I needed to know for sure. Boss, one more thing. You can't use any of this in court. Wait, what do you mean? Didn't you do the same thing and I heard you came out smelling like a rose in your divorce? I asked. Yes and no. The same people who put this together for you did the same for me. We didn't use the pictures to get my ex to cooperate in the divorce. We used other means. I can talk to them about other means, but it won't be cheap. Kevin, just so we are clear, I don't want them hurt, I replied. Understood, boss. I will see what they have in mind. I know this will be hard, but you should still try to act like you don't know. Having intimacy with Vicky now was out of the question. She tried several times, but I made excuses. Keeping calm was hard, but acting normal was impossible. The next 2 weeks were almost unbearable. I almost lost it when Vicky told me she had another trip in 2 weeks. I wasn't going to let it happen, but Kevin was waiting outside my office. They have a plan. We will need to know when her next trip is. It will cost you $5,000, and you will not know the plan for your safety. Vicky will not be physically hurt, but she and her lover will be destroyed in every other way. Is that what you want? After watching those videos, the answer is easy. I will get you the money and her next itinerary, I replied. I was on pins and needles from the time Vicky drove to the airport. Kevin said I would know when it all went down, but I was to act surprised. The call came in at 3 a.m. Thursday morning. Mr. Harris, this is the Phoenix Police Department. We have your wife in custody. Switching back to the perspective of Vicky. What the hell was going on? Suddenly, the lights were on. All I could make out was someone yelling, "Police search warrant! Put your hands where we can see them!" I grabbed a sheet covering up losing track of where Jason went. A female officer threw me a robe telling me to put it on. Once it was on, I was handcuffed. I was so confused and so scared. I never saw Jason or what happened to him. The next thing I knew, I was in an interrogation room alone for what seemed to be an eternity. A man and a woman walked in introducing themselves as detectives. I had seen enough TV cop shows to know I was under arrest, and they were reading me my rights. They kept asking me over and over who was our supplier and who were we selling to. I told them over and over I didn't know what they were talking about. The male asked me about Jason, and I told him that we worked together. Nice working together with him messing you doggy when we burst in. I shut up after that, telling them I wanted a lawyer. I cried as they put me in a cell. Spending the day in that cell, I cried most of the day. Finally, I was taken to a room back with the same 2 detectives who questioned me. The female handed me some paperwork. Mrs. Harris, this is a complaint and a warrant for your arrest. You are being charged with 2 counts of trafficking in drugs. Your bond is $100,000, 10% or secured. If you don't know, that means you can put of $10,000 to the court or pay a bondsman to sign for your bond. Here is your phone if you want to call someone to arrange for bail. The detectives left me alone in the room. I started to cry as I hit my husband's number. He answered on the first ring in silence. Honey, I'm in trouble and need your help. I didn't expect his stern voice on the other end. You need my help? From what your friends the police told me, you were doing just fine when they walked into your room. Your buddy Jason seemed to have everything under control from behind. Drug dealing? What the hell, Vicky? No, this is all a mistake. I need your help. I need you to post my bond so I can straighten this out. You have to believe me, I know nothing about any drugs. Funny you didn't mention anything about Jason. I guess that wasn't a misunderstanding, that was just you cheating on me. I'll call your parents. They may want to bond you out, but I'm too busy meeting with my divorce lawyer. Maybe you can find a divorce lawyer who represents drug dealers. I was too shocked to cry as Ross disconnected. Switching back to the perspective of Ross. Mrs. Hernandez, I think your daughter wants you to call her. My mother-in-law was surprised not just at my words, but also at my tone. I hadn't called her Mrs. Hernandez since before we were married. She had insisted I call her Mom. What is going on? Is she all right? She is being held at the Phoenix Police Department. I'm guessing she needs someone to bail her out. Oh my God, what does she need from us? Aren't you going down there to get her? That's why I'm calling you. I'm a little too busy to go help her. I thought you might want to. Ross, what are you talking about? She is your wife. I don't understand what could be so important that would keep you from helping your wife. Well, you see, I have this appointment with a divorce lawyer. For me, visiting the lawyer is a little more important right now. Divorce lawyer? Oh my God, Ross, what are you talking about? She asked. I'm sorry to spring this on you all at once. When the police executed their search warrant on your daughter's hotel room, she was found with the man she works with. She and her work buddy have been having intimacy on their little work trips for some time. I won't be married to a cheater and a drug dealer. If you want to bond her out, be my guest, but tell her not to come to this house. It wouldn't surprise me if I get a visit from the police to search the house because of her little enterprise. All I heard was shocked silence from my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, so I disconnected. Not 5 minutes later, my phone lit up again. It was my father-in-law, Alex. What can I do for you, sir? I asked. You can tell me what's happening. Marge is upset about Vicky being in jail and now you're divorcing her. I will agree with you. It's quite a mess. The Phoenix police called me this morning to tell me my loving wife was in custody for trafficking drugs, and they told me that when they burst into the room, her work buddy was plugging her from behind. They said that I would need to come to Phoenix with $10,000 to bail her out. Just so you know, I suspected your daughter was cheating on me. I will not be going to Phoenix, and I will not be wasting any of my money on her bail. I will be splitting our bank accounts and canceling our credit cards after I meet with my divorce lawyer. Vicky's father stammered that he didn't believe it and said something to the effect I should give her the benefit of the doubt. I disconnected the call at that point. I spent the rest of the day meeting with my new divorce lawyer and bank officials. I was home when Abby got home from school. What's wrong, Dad? You look terrible. Sit down, we need to have a discussion, I replied. Whoa, sounds serious. It is. Your mother is in jail in Phoenix. They are holding her on drug charges. Abby was shocked. What? That's crazy. Are you going to get her out? Abby, there is more. I'm not going to get her out. I think your grandparents are. When the police went into her room, your mother was having intimacy with her co-worker, that man she travels with. She's been having an affair with him for some time. I will be filing for divorce. I'm sorry. Abby jumped up, hugging me tight. Oh God, Dad, I'm so sorry. Is that why she has been acting so distant lately? What? I didn't realize she has been that way to you, I asked. Oh yeah, it all makes sense now. I have been nothing to her lately. I've asked several times for her help in looking at colleges, and she treats me like an annoyance. I'm living with you when you divorce her, if that's okay. No, it's not just okay, I would love that. Now we have to call your brother to tell him. We called Steve at college. The three of us cried and talked for over an hour. Just like Abby, he was upset that she was a cheater, but had a hard time believing she was a drug dealer. Switching back to the perspective of Vicky. My dad was able to get a flight to Phoenix early the next morning and had me bonded out by mid-afternoon. He told me that Ross knew about me cheating with Jason. I tried to explain to Dad that I had nothing to do with the drugs and knew nothing about them. It was clear he didn't believe me. He made a comment about cheaters not being able to tell the truth, and it was hard to believe me even though I was his daughter. We collected my luggage before heading to a hotel room for the night. Dad had a meeting for me with a criminal lawyer for the next day before we flew home. The lawyer took Dad's money and would investigate the charges. I started crying when Dad told me I was going to have to stay with him and Mom because Ross had said he was getting a restraining order to keep me away from the house. I tried to argue with him that it was my house and Ross couldn't keep me out. I relented when I called my daughter, who just cursed at me. I convinced Mom to try to set up a time with Ross so she could get some of my things. My plan was to go with Mom and make Ross talk to me. Slumping down in the car, I was sure that Ross wouldn't see me. Of course, he did see me, and to my surprise, told my mom to tell me to come in. My mom got up to leave when Ross asked her to stay. He wanted her to hear all my embarrassing details, I guessed. "Ross, can we talk alone? Mom doesn't need to hear this." No, I want her to hear your story. Just know the moment you lie, we are done." I gulped. "I first want to say I'm sorry. I don't know anything about those drugs they found. I can't believe Jason had anything to do with it either." "That's just great. Protecting your lover," he replied. "He's not my lover, you are. I'm protecting him either, I'm telling you the truth. I'm very sorry. But yes, we were having intimacy." I guess that's hard to deny when the cops burst into your room and found him with you in a compromising position. Vicky's mom put her hand to her mouth, gasping. "Tell me this, Vicky. Why and how long? Lie to me and we are done." Vicky lowered her head. "Why? Because I'm stupid, that is the reason." Ross frowned at me, starting to get up. A few months back, we were celebrating a contract signing and I let things get out of hand. He was telling me how beautiful I was and how desirable I was. I had been feeling like an old lady and he was stroking my ego. "Yeah, and you started being intimate with him," he replied. "Ross!" my mom called at him. "No, Mom, he's right. I had too much to drink and caught up in a younger guy telling me I was desirable. We had intimacy that night." Ross looked at me like he wanted me to go on. I knew I should have stopped it then, but he kept telling me that we deserved it. I was stupid and bought into it. I'm so ashamed. We had always gotten 2 rooms, but this last trip we got just 1 room. I'm so sorry. There was no love. It was just intimacy. He kept telling me we deserved it. My mom was now crying with her head down before Ross started to speak again. I guess he was right. "You deserve everything you're going to get. Have you talked to good old Jason or your boss?" he asked. Oh God, I hadn't even thought about my job. "No, why?" "I have. Your boss called the house. Because the room was paid for by your company, the police notified them. Your boss said you can come back to work but only pick up your things. He wanted me to tell you that you and Jason have been fired. He said something about how he hopes you fight your termination so he can crush you. As for Jason, he is in the hospital. Did you know that his wife has a brother who is a bouncer? Something about his wife telling him not to come home or he will end up in the hospital. I guess he didn't listen to her." "Oh my God, Ross, please. I made a mistake. I need to come home and make this right with you and the kids." Ross looked mad now. "I guess you think saying you made a mistake makes it all okay. Unlike you, I took our vows seriously. They were not something I would throw away just because someone said nice things to me and made me feel sexy. I cannot forget nor will I forgive your affair with Jason. If it had been a one-time thing while you were drunk, I might have been able to get over that. but you had an ongoing affair. Do you know that when I explained to our daughter about your affair, she said, "That's why she's been such a bitch to me"? You betrayed our whole family. As to your drug dealing, I don't know what to say about that. I was sobbing hard, telling him I didn't do it, over and over. Ross stood up. "Vicky, you need to leave. We are getting a divorce and there is nothing you can do to stop it. Don't fight it. I would hate to use your drug dealing to add to your adultery to convince the judge." "But I didn't do it," I cried. "We should believe you because you don't lie. You just cheat," he replied. My mother helped me walk out of my former house crying. 1 year later, I was divorced, living with my parents. My kids would have nothing to do with me. They blamed me for breaking up our family, and I couldn't deny it. I was charged with the distribution of a controlled substance. My lawyer was able to poke some holes in their case. They could find any evidence of any actual sales that Jason or I made. There were also some issues with the anonymous tip they received to get the search warrant. I kept pushing the lawyer that I knew nothing about the drugs and wanted to fight it all the way. The problem was, I didn't have the money to fund that kind of defense. The lawyer convinced me to make a plea of no contest to possession. I received 5 years of probation. What I didn't realize was that there would be collateral issues of the plea. Getting a job comparable to what I had before was now impossible. When I fought Ross on the terms of the divorce, Ross's attorney threw out my drug plea. Once the judge heard that everything went south for me. I was given supervised visitation with my children, but only if they agreed. They didn't. I was given no alimony even though I was unemployed. The split of assets went very much in favor of Ross. Jason fared worse. He went to trial claiming we were set up. Somehow, he got it in his head that Ross set us up. He and his lawyer had some good arguments, but Ross had a rock-solid alibi in a different city. It wasn't enough. Jason was found guilty. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. His divorce was uglier than mine. He lost everything. I tried numerous times to talk to Ross in an attempt to reconcile. He refused every attempt to just talk. I cried for days when Mom told me that she got out of my daughter that Ross had been dating a divorced blonde 10 years younger than me. I guess in the end, Jason was right. I deserve this. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.